All right, let's keep the holiday spirit moving. Talk about all things soccer. Let's talk about FIFA a little bit. Yes, yes, yes. There was a World Cup that just concluded. Congratulations to Leo Messi and Argentina for lifting the 2022 World Cup alongside the build up to that championship final. FIFA made some pretty big announcements, or reintroduced some former announcers, because some of this news has sort of been out there already, with FIFA and their future plans. But basically saying that the Women's World Cup that is going to take place in 2027 and 2031, the hosts for those two World Cup events are going to be decided in 2024 and 2025. And just reiterating the expansion of Olympic women's teams from 12 to 16, that is something that they are still looking into, and also introducing some other tournaments along the way.
Yeah, FIFA coming out with a number of announcements. They said that they were going to have two new women's football tournaments. One of them being the women's women's futsal World Cup, and also a club World Cup. Which there have been rumors about this before the club World Cup, and they've resurfaced from FIFA about what they're going to do, but there hasn't been any definite plans set in place. But one thing about the Club World Cup that I think is kind of cool is that it's the only way for a club team to be able to say, I am the best in the world. Because once you win your league, there's nowhere else to go, right? Like, that's it. That's the epitome. And because soccer is such a world sport, there's no way to determine, because there's no World Champions League, right? Club World Cup. That's something that I think would be interesting and kind of cool, but it's also like, I don't even know if it's going to happen, right? We've heard this before. It's like they're giving us the ring around at this point. What do you think? Do you want a Club World Cup?
100%. I'm team Club World Cup. I think we've wanted to see that on the women's side for quite some time. Especially in this era in which we're looking at women's pro leagues and their longevity. They're still very, very, very young leagues when you're comparing it to some brands and teams and leagues that have been around for many years, right? But we're looking at different professional leagues, whether it's NWSL, Women's Super League, even Women's A League, leagues that have been around for a decade plus now, in combination with leagues that are maybe a bit younger, or like a league like Liga MX Femenil. So I'm here for it. I would love to see it, but I think at this point, whenever these types of announcements sort of get brought into the big landscape, I mean, look, it was the President Infantino, reiterated these things in a week in the build up to a World Cup final. And it didn't have a lot of substance. It didn't have a lot of planning within it. It's just a president on a podium saying, and then this, and then that, and how about this as well? And that's great. There's a lot of us out here that would love that stuff and love to see it. But what's the plan? What's the course of action? What's the infrastructure? What's the resource? What does all of that look like? So, yeah, I would love that. Would love a Club World Cup. I think
too.
We've covered women's ICC. We've covered the Women's Cup over the last couple of years now. I think even those very small kind of round robin-esque style type of tournaments already show that there's a huge interest in having a bigger version of that. And I remember when we covered Women's Cup, we were so excited that they even expanded it.
I know.
They went from 4 teams to 6 teams. We were like, oh, this is very cool, very exciting. So I think the enthusiasm is there, and the teams are there, right?
Yeah.
The clubs, the franchises are there, the leagues are there in which to pull these teams from. And I think that's the equally frustrating part of it. It's like the stuff is there, like, let's get to planning and let's get to hashing all this out. So we'll see. I think it's exciting to have the the deadline on things in terms of the host city,
Right.
or
I
the host
agree.
nations. It's like, who's going to be the host for the 2027 and 2031 World Cups. We're going to find out in the next couple of years.
That's, like,
So
crazy to think about, 2031.
I know,
Believe
I
that 2023 in, like, a
it's
couple weeks.
I know it's wild to think about, but also exciting. I'm curious to see,
So
like,
exciting.
who's going to put together their bid and what that's going to look like. Are we going to continue are we going to continue to see this kind of trend of co-nations teaming up and putting together bids? It was primarily going to be Australia as their bid, and then New Zealand was involved, and it was a great pitch for two co-hosting
Mhm.
nations for this upcoming World Cup. I mean, the 2026 World Cup is going to be a trio of nations. It's going to be a North American World Cup. So primary games are primarily going to be in the United States.
Yeah.
There's two host cities in Canada, three host cities in Mexico. So what is 2027 and 2023 going to look like for the Women's World Cup? I know Colombia, they had a very strong bid for the 2023
Yeah.
World Cup as well. I would love to see Colombia back in the mix for this as well. I would love to see a Women's World Cup hosted in a Latin American nation. Um, so I'm excited for us to sort of cover that in the next coming years as well.
Yeah, I think it's super exciting, and the fact that they already told us we're gonna find out in 2024 and 2025 for 27 and 31, like, the planning can start, and that's something that, nations need time, right, to be able to plan and to be able to build structures that they need or organize what's going to happen, but you're right, I mean, this is the first step that they're making these announcements. It is the first step in getting some answers, and maybe we'll hear some of the bids that come out, and we'll find out by 2024. That way, then, like, the plans can already be put into place, right? We can continue to move forward, especially coming off the very end of the World Cup in 2023. We should be deciding the next one and understanding what's going on from there. I mean, it's a great opportunity for so many different nations to do this, and for the Club World Cup, we'll see. Fingers crossed on my behalf, but who knows?
Yeah, fingers crossed. U.S. Soccer making some announcements of their own end of the year awards getting announced. Let's take a look at the nominees for U.S. Soccer Young Female Player of the Year: Onyeka Gamero, Riley Jackson, Olivia Moultrie, Jaden Shaw, Alyssa Thompson, amongst the nominees for this one. Who's standing out for you, Lisa?
This one's tricky. I mean, these are just incredible, incredible athletes. You look at Gamero, 16-year-old forward, Jackson, also incredibly young. For people that are in the world of NWSL, Olivia Moultrie, she plays at Portland Thorns. Jaden Shaw, she went through a process this year to get into the league and be a professional athlete at her age. She was training with Washington Spirit for a long time and ended up going to San Diego Wave. And then Alyssa Thompson, who plays on a U17 boys team, she got her first international senior cap with the U.S. women's national team this year. I mean, these players are fantastic. I think someone like Jaden Shaw, though, it stands out to me a little bit more with what she's been able to do professionally in the professional league, and kind of breaking that boundary to get into the league and play with a team. And then she scores a goal in her first match that she plays with San Diego. I think that was pretty impressive. And then on the international side of things, like, she contributed a lot to what the U.S. World Cup was doing. They didn't have the best run that maybe they wanted this year, but I think Shaw stands out to me the most out of these five players.
Yeah, I'm with you. Listen, Moultrie, part of that, NWSL championship winning Portland Thorns side. Jaden Shaw getting all the way to the semifinals with the Wave. I'm with you. I feel like there's a lot of competition
Yeah.
in this one, whereas maybe before in the past there was a little bit of a breakaway kind of candidate amongst the nominees. I don't know if that's necessarily the case for this year's
I
version.
know.
I think there's a lot of strong candidates here for Young Player of the Year. Let's talk about the nominees that they put out for Female Player of the Year in terms of the senior women's national team. It's Alex Morgan, Rose Lavelle, Lindsay Horan, Mallory Pugh, Sophia Smith. You surprised by any of these names listed here, or they all sort of seem like the right nominees for you?
I'm not at all surprised by these 5 players. I think that some of them maybe stand out a little bit more than others. I think if you looked at just the beginning of 2022, you'd be a little surprised to see Alex Morgan on that list because she wasn't really back into the mix until the middle of last year of
Yeah,
this year of 2022. But she's a player that rose to the occasion for US soccer and what she wanted to do for them. No, I'm not surprised at any of these. I also don't think there's anyone like entirely left off that I'm like, you need to be on this list, right? I think for me, these 5 are good. When you have to pick 5, I go with them. But that my winner, clear and obvious, Sophia Smith. I think Sophia
correct.
Smith deserves this hands down with the 11 goals that she scored this year for US soccer, the run she went on in domestic play with the NWSL, winning league MVP championship, and then winning the title game MVP. It's Smith. There's no question mark about it. That's why I'm like, yeah, look
Yeah,
at Lindsay Horan.
yeah.
That's fine. Look at Rose Lavelle. They had a great year. But like, to me, they're not even in the running. I think I could see some people making arguments for Alex Morgan to be this type of player. I also think Mallory Pugh, with the assists that she put up this year for US soccer, people could make arguments for her, but it's clear and obvious winner to me is Sophia Smith.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's funny to go from the young player
Yeah.
nominees to just the player nominees, and the energy is like, wow, there's a lot of great candidates here. Who's it going to go to in the young player category? And then we get to this one, and we're both like, no, there's a clear answer
I
here.
mean, Sophia Smith could like kind of be a young player too. She's also like so young.
Give her both.
Yeah,
Let's
give
see
her
what
both,
happens.
frankly.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm with you. I think you're looking at the nominees for this one, and like I said, there is a clear answer, and the answer is Sophia Smith. I think yes, you can make a case for Mallory Pugh. I would anticipate that maybe those are the top two, but it's Smith all the way. I think if you want to include things like club performance, you could, but again, this is
No.
U.S. soccer, so we're just
Yeah.
looking at national team performance, and it's still Smith. I think for both you and I, we will see how the votes shake out for those two categories and see which of the candidates get the award for both categories. So listen, everybody, if you joined us in the later stage of this episode, the second half after the break, I want to remind you that we have been nominated for an award. It's
Whoop,
our
whoop.
third time being nominated in 2022. We're quite excited about it. The Signal Awards for Best Episode. We are thrilled to have the support. So please, if you can continue that support and click on the link in the episode description or use the QR code on the screen to vote for us. We would really, really, really appreciate it. It would be a great holiday gift. Wink, wink, nod, nod for your favorite co-host out there.